Welcome to the Millennial Sandwich, a space for real conversations about millennials in the middle, not just of our own lives, but also of a caregiving sandwich. I'm Dr. Anitha Chandra, a geriatrician and expert in elder care.
And I'm Zara Hannawalt, a parenting journalist and expert in American motherhood. And even we don't have all the answers. Join us as we figure out life in the middle. Hi, everybody. We are here today with Hitha Palepu. Hitha is so much of what the Millennial Sandwich is all about. She is a woman who wears so many hats, professionally and personally. You have a multi-hyphenated identity. You talk about that all the time. And we're so excited to have you here. Welcome to the Millennial Sandwich. Can you tell everyone a little bit more about yourself?
Yes. Hi, and thrilled to be here. I am a consummate multi-hyphenate and have been calling myself that for a while, but now society is catching on. I run a pharmaceutical company called Pharma. We're developing injectable aspirin for hospital use, and it's a company I run with my father. I've also been a very online person from 2009 onwards, starting with a blog called Hitha on the Go, and now evolved into a Substack called Hyphenated, where I share how I'm juggling my different roles and sharing everything from personal diaries about caregiving and my health to AI tools and swipe files to a little bit of everything. Right now, I'm very much in the thick of caregiving, between taking care of my aging parents, my kids who have had some health challenges over the course of this year, and trying to keep it together.
Yeah, aren't we all?
I think a lot of people look at you and women who are also multi-hyphenates and automatically think, oh, she must have it all together. Do you ever actually feel like you have it all together?
Never. Never. I think maybe there is one day a year where all of my roles feels in flow. I make it a point to really pause in those days and to savor it because I know how fleeting it is. Any given day, I have to make a choice. Is it a full family day? Is it prioritizing work day? What are the trade-offs that I have to make for the other stuff when I choose one? And it's never balanced. It's never doing it all. I'd say the list of things I don't do is far longer than the list of things I do. And there are days where I am an excellent mother and my inbox has piled up and I have team members texting me to follow up on things. And there are days where I am so on it with work and have written a bunch and advanced something really big at a meeting. And by the time I see my kids, I am a dysregulated mess and losing my temper, and I'm not showing up for them the way I would like to. And it involves a fair number of repair conversations, at which case I usually wheedle some extra video game time out of me. So, and not feeling guilty about that and accepting that we're going to figure out how we move forward together, but there are going to be ebbs and flows, and I cannot be good at everything every single day. And there are days where I'm bad at everything, and I just have to be a little extra kind to myself on those days.
I love that you say that because I think, especially on social media, we've kind of gotten this narrative about priorities twisted, especially around motherhood. I think I hear so much of, I am not doing date nights right now because I'm prioritizing my kids, or I quit my job to prioritize my kids. When in reality, prioritizing something doesn't mean it's the only thing that's important to you, right? And priorities shift year to year, week to week, day to day sometimes. And I feel like that is so much what we are doing here in the sandwich is we're constantly reevaluating what needs to be put ahead of what on any given day. So do you have any systems for that, or is it intuitive?
The one system I put into place this year actually flips this all on its head, and it's taking care of myself first and prioritizing my own rest first. So there is a framework called the 7 types of rest, and it's physical, mental, emotional, social, sensory, creative, and spiritual rest. I don't practice all 7 types every single day, but one of the first things I do every single day is write down a rest plan on what I can realistically do in that day in each one of those categories. And if I hit 3 in a day, that's success. And starting my day with writing that plan before I jump into the to-do list and all the shoulds and needs to do has helped me stay grounded in really chaotic times and prioritize all the other stuff much more efficiently and much more purposefully because I have taken that time to fill my own cup a little bit.
Switching between roles, can that be rest? Giving like one of your hyphens, if you're taking a break from one and switching to the other, is that a form of rest, do you think?
I would have said so before I had kids. I don't say that anymore. I need a buffer time from switching from one role to another, even if I'm trying not to scroll as much because that usually is the buffer time. And that is a default that I'm trying to reprogram and to do something a little bit more intentional. But there has to be a bit of a transition time where you can just be you. You reflect on what you accomplished. You give yourself kudos for whatever it is you managed to get done when holding that role, and you kind of pause. And when I'm really proactive about it, I try to set an intention for what I want to do or how I want to show up in that next role. These days, it probably is, if I'm not scrolling threads, because my threads algorithm is just perfect right now, and it is genuinely fun to do, I will stare out the window, like stare at a wall and not feel guilty about it or feel like I should be doing something, drink a glass of water. It really is tiny things to stop for a second because if you jump from one thing to the next, you're going to burn out even faster than if you take a few minutes, even a minute to take a bit of a break.
Yeah. Well, and both of you have very multi-hyphenated professional identities, and you do things that don't seem to connect and that are very left brain, right brain. How do both of you? Is there like a mindset shift you have to get into when you're doing more creative work?
Yeah, so for context, Hitha, I'm a geriatrician, but I'm also an event planner. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Girl,
it's right. Like,
girl.
I feel like they're both always running simultaneously for me. And that's what makes it so hard for me to. I mean, you're saying all the things that I know I should do, like take the buffer, figure out how to just be me. And it's still so hard for me to figure out when I can rest and what rest looks like. Because for me, both things are just simultaneously working all the time.
Mhm. I get that. For me, it's my days are always prioritizing Roche and pharma first and foremost. That's my priority to myself, to my team, to my investors. And if I'm not on that, then I consider that a failure of a day when I have let the ball drop. Now, that's not to say if I'm like something happens with my kids and they're home from school or I need to take my parents to a doctor's appointment, I'm checking in with the team and being honest and transparent. I'm going to be away from my desk. Here's something I need to offload to someone because it is urgent. Could you take this on for me and CC me? So I think it's really important to know at any given time what is the key priority of each of your roles. And right now, I purposefully keep my writing and my content fluid with no major goal right now as I take our program through a pretty critical time. Parenting, I wish I showed up with that same bit of intentionality because too often I haven't been showing up as the mom or the daughter as I would like to. They kind of get the last of me versus the best of me. I'm accepting it right now. I try to do better. I try to really make sure the mornings and breakfast with them, my phone is away and I'm at least present and helping calm the chaos, especially in summer when the schedules are just so much more fluid and there's less structure to the day. All of us really do thrive well with structure, but I also want to give them that rest from what is usually a very busy school year, activities, etc. It's hard to juggle all of the roles, and anyone who claims that it's not is lying to you. And I think it's making peace that it's never going to be perfect. But if you set an intention for the day, do your best to achieve that one thing that is highest priority and most urgent and show up okay in everything else, that to me is how I define a successful day.
I totally agree with everything you just said. And I also feel like my children and my partner and my mom get the end, whatever is left. And it's often not my best self.
hmm
There was a time I was feeling really guilty about that and feeling like I needed to shift my priorities. Now I don't feel that way because I know that this is what I need to be doing right now. It's kind of hard to say that out loud, especially to other people, because I do feel like I would be judged and that's not the right priorities. But like you said, no one is balancing everything. Balance is not a thing. That's not real. So even people who are high achieving and who are doing so many things and doing them well still are dropping balls and not carrying everything at once. There's no magic to that. There's no like special skill that only some people have to be able to do it all or have it all.
Yeah, and it looks different day to day too. Through the pandemic and a few years later, I didn't have any childcare. I had my kids home with me for 4 years, and it was, I think, like almost a badge of honor that I was working from home and also taking care of them. And now, as I'm doing it over the summer, I'm like, what was I thinking? Because I wasn't as good of a mother as I could have been. I wasn't as good as at my job as I could have been. I was pulled in a million directions. I was not as patient, and I probably should have just accepted the help. There is just no way to get through this without feeling that guilt, because I have so many friends who do have childcare who are like, I feel so guilty about that piece. And then I'm here and I feel guilty for not accepting the help. And so, yeah, guilt is just so accessible to us as women.
It's also programmed for us, I feel like. In a way, it's not for men. And I was listening to your episode with Somya, and I loved the guilt pill. In fact, when I was reading it, I kept like texting her and I'm like, is this book about me? Like,
that's kind of how I was texting Zara. Like, she's
Is she in my brain?
Exactly. And with that, she talked about daughter guilt in your episode with her. And I feel that a lot. And I feel like I've spent, especially this calendar year so far, re-mothering myself and reparenting myself to stop martyring myself, because that is the default with which I had seen and assumed it was the norm. If you weren't putting your kids and your husband and your family above yourself, you were selfish and you're a bad mom and you're a bad wife. And I really am taking this time, especially as my mom is about to have heart surgery, and how she wants and needs to be taken care of is not how I am able to take care of her in that extremely specific way. But that comes, make my aunts, bless them, are going to be staying with us for those 6 weeks post-op. And they know exactly how to take care of her in the way she needs to be taken care of. I will be able to take care of my dad. I have another aunt staying here, and I'll be taking her back to New York with me when I return to the city and giving her some quality one-on-one time, because my uncle passed away earlier this year and she's in the throes of grief. Being able to know my cousins can come and stay and take care of my mom when she's ready to start driving again, but we want someone there to take her around and ease her back into her normal errands routine. Old Hitha would have felt like a failure, Zara, to what you were saying of like, I felt like it should have been a badge of honor to be taking care of my mom all by myself. And now I'm very accepting. I'm still not great at it, by the way, but I am very grateful and very accepting of the help. Like when my cousins were texting me and saying, when can I come? I wasn't saying, oh my God, don't worry about it. I got this. I was like, thank you for the offer. Let me figure out how she's doing immediately post-op, because I'll know what the best time is for you to come based on when I have to go back to New York and get my kids ready for the school year.
Yeah, I think as women, we really tend to valorize our exhaustion and our burnout. And even, I still have those moments, right? I was in the hospital with a parent a few months ago and I pulled an all-nighter, and it's what needed to be done. But I had this moment of like, I'm such a good daughter. And no, that wasn't about me being a good daughter. That was just what needed to happen given the situation. But it's right there. We valorize and we're like, oh, I feel like a mother when I'm up all night with my baby. But it doesn't have to be that way. Sometimes those are just things that we just have to do in the name of the job. And then we move on, and we don't have to feel better about ourselves in those moments.
Yeah, I think part of it is because we also don't have a clear picture for what it means to be a good daughter. we're starting to have that conversation about motherhood and knowing that being a good mom can look like lots of things. And for daughterhood, we're not quite there yet. We're still thinking like, oh, you have to sacrifice yourself to be a good daughter. And of course, some of that is cultural. And, we obviously talk about the sandwich piece a lot. And Zara and I have always talked about how we didn't realize we were in the sandwich until we were deep in the sandwich. When did you realize that you were in the sandwich generation?
It was spring of 2022. My nanny had a heart attack. So, she was out for a few weeks. So it required my husband and I to completely reshuffle how we were working and operating. No, wait, it was spring 2023. My father had just gotten a Parkinson's diagnosis and everything kind of switched to my parents, being fine and somewhat independent and living in a home, that they had lived in since 2006 and that had an upstairs primary suite, etc., to being very intentional about, oh, this isn't going to be the right home for you in the long term. And we need to make some changes. Now, this is where my father was very gung-ho about making those changes fairly quickly. And my mother was not ready. But we bought this house in Pennsylvania that gave them a first floor primary suite in the same neighborhood as my cousins that took care of lawn maintenance, etc. Basically a very low maintenance home that no matter what happened with them health-wise, they'd be able to live here independently. They were close to their own friends, for my mom, close to the temple, and also was set up in a way where you could come and spend summers. If something were to happen and we needed to move down here full time, we could live here full time. And, as part of estate planning, it's a home that my husband and I bought. So that was one less thing we'd have to worry about in the estate planning scheme of things when they eventually do pass. And I want to preface all of this with the immense privilege and the financial means we had to be able to make these decisions, because most people don't. It did allow me to then focus my time and energy on how are they actually doing and taking care of them versus handling logistics while trying to take care of them. And so I'm very grateful that we were able to do it in this manner. Probably one area my mom and butt heads is on the design of the house, because I was very much, this is going to be your last home. So let's make it as beautiful as it is functional. You were very particular about a kind of chair you want, about the height of couches, etc., having assistants in the bathrooms. And so I was like, let's work with a designer who can source you the exact specific things you need and handle it all. And she loves it, but she also didn't love a little bit that I took the lead on it. And I think those power struggles are probably something we don't talk enough about between mothers and daughters, specifically in the caregiving of it all.
Yeah, we want to preserve our parents' autonomy and respect them. And sometimes we do need to step in. And that's really hard for anyone to know when and how to do that. It sounds like it was the right thing to do and the safe thing to do, even knowing that it was going to maybe cause some friction and sometimes it's easier to just be like, I'm not dealing with the backlash and just let them do what they want. And you're kind of, no one's winning in that situation.
No, and like my dad kind of put himself in the middle of it and then was caught in the middle of it. It doesn't help that my mom and I both have the same MO when we're highly anxious, which is the more anxious we get, the more of a control freak we become. And when both of us are anxious and both of us are very control freaky, the friction, it turns into World War III. My dad jokes that she's Federer, I'm Nadal, and he's the tennis ball being like slammed back and forth. And sadly, it's true. And now my husband is caught in the crossfire as well. And I think it's really important to give yourself grace and give your parent, who's the friction is with, grace as well, and to pause and try to see it from their point of view. To say, I get right now, I'm not showing up for her the way she wants to be shown up for, and she's not letting me take care of her in the way I have capacity for. There is a disconnect right now. It's okay. We will get through with this. Where can I ease up on? And if me easing up means the kids are eating like a frozen pizza and letting them play some extra video games or watch TV so I can be really present with her and give her that quality of time moment that I know she and I both need, then that's the trade-off that needs to happen. I think when we're in the millennial sandwich, we get caught in that trade-off of good daughter, good mother. And I think the husbands just like naturally like get lost, like pushed off to the wayside. And I actually don't feel too guilty about the kind of partner I am because he and I are constantly managing the trade-offs. I feel the guilt mostly with the kind of mom I am or the kind of daughter I am.
Yeah.
That part is so important, though. In order to be successful in this, I guess successful is not the right word, but to survive the sandwich, the partner that you pick is so, so important. And I have heard you say that, for example, your husband brings you a latte in the morning in bed. So does my husband. And that is like, that's great. And it's really not about the latte. It means that someone is thinking about how to make your day easier, thinking about how they can support you in the things you want to do and have to do and run you're really partners in a lot of ways. And all of the things that we're doing in the sandwich and in our careers and parenting just wouldn't be possible without a partner. And I think for women, especially who are doing lots of things, people tend to ask, how do you do it all? How do you do this by like kind of glorify the fact that you're just doing it all on your own, but we're not doing it all on our own. And that's really important. We just don't talk about the partners do get lost in this conversation.
But that doing it on our own is also part of the rugged individualism that is so uniquely American, but is manifests very differently between men and between women. With men, it is a sign of their leadership and their strength and provider of sorts. With women, it's very much taken for granted and assumed that you're going to juggle all of this and you're going to take the lead at work as well as at home in the caring of everybody. And really, as you said, life is not like that. None of us are doing it alone. And what I love about our culture is how women are very much taken care of by the women in their lives. It is very special especially in a postpartum period. I honestly think it's the best thing. Like you go back to your family home and you let your mom and your aunts and your cousins take care of you and your newborn baby until you're ready to, both of you have healed and both of you are ready to take the lead on yourself. Care is never weaponized. In our culture, though, I think that Indian American experience can kind of come at a friction or a crossroads where they're just at odds with each other. And you have to figure out a way to find your piece into very conflicting, different schools of thought, cultural norms, and how it shows up in our modern life.
We spoke at an event last week and we talked a little bit about how I think being a daughter of immigrants was the ultimate training ground for being in the sandwich because you are so used to kind of existing in this liminal space. You're always between these two factors that feel a little bit opposing, even if they're not completely opposing. You get really good at kind of toggling between identities. And so when you have to toggle between the mother and the daughter identity, you kind of know how to do that already.
It's not so much code switching as it's not even flipping a switch. It's almost just switching a gear when you're driving a car and not even reverse to neutral. It's first to second gear. It is very instinctive and natural. And we have been programmed with this sort of toxic, rugged individualism to ignore our deepest instincts on how to actually take care of ourselves, which comes with first taking care of ourselves, but then in order to do that, taking care of the others in our lives. We flipped it where you take care of everybody else first. And then if you have anything left, you can watch Bravo, or you can read a book, or you can take the bubble bath, and all of that performative self-care that we have accepted as being a real substitute for high quality sleep, nutritious meals, moving your body, having open space in your calendar to do nothing or to do what you want to do.
Yeah, I was just joking with Anita that I think my ultimate sandwich survival tip would be like, just make sure you're eating meals, because I don't know about you guys, but I am not a good person to anybody in my life if I'm hungry. So yeah, nourish yourself, get enough sleep. And that stuff is more important than what we have been sold as this picture of self-care, right? But what are some things, Hitha, that you truly do for your own rest or your own enjoyment?
I mean, I'm guilty. I do love my reality TV, and my family knows that during Love Island season, I am not available to them as much as I would want to be. And my husband is, and my kids are thrilled that it's over. Meanwhile, I'm like missing my little people and checking in on them and seeing how they're doing. Now that Love Island is over, though, I need to take a break and watch something scripted and acted and not just pure chaos and the worst of humanity. I love to needlepoint. I am very non-committal, though, when it comes to crafting. Like it is very much, I will put down a canvas and not pick it up for months. And I have made my peace with that. However long it takes me to do a project, it takes me to do a project. I read a lot, and I specifically read happy romance fiction that makes me brings me joy versus feeling like I have to read the literary fiction, the award winners, etc. I really love a romance novel.
Same.
I also love sports. Like when the Eagles are playing, I am not available again on Sundays when they're playing. Everyone is welcome to watch it with me, but I'm focused on the birds. That's it. And then I do the things you're supposed to do. Like I lift weights now 3 times a week. Do I enjoy it? Not really. Although I do like that I mentally check out mid-workout and I am not consumed by my own thoughts. I do enjoy cooking. And again, to your point, it's because I know I'll eat what I cook versus if I'm at the mercy of ordering in or like even a meal prep service. If I'm emotional and don't want to eat that one thing, I'm just going to end up starving and then eating garbage out of my pantry like a raccoon. And so I have to have a good freezer stash of my favorite things so I do stay nourished. I walk around with that ridiculous large jug so I can drink water. And so it really is those things. One thing I'm trying to be more intentional about is offline rest time and really putting my phone away, closing my laptop, and just not doing anything. Easier said than done, though.
Again, I was going to say, like, you're doing all the things that in my head, I know I'm supposed to do, and I just can't. I'm so bad at rest. I don't.
I think you should just turn around and stare at your beautiful background.
There are some, if somebody asked me, like, what would be, like, the most restful, what comes to my mind, it is being in my house alone with everybody gone and it just being quiet. And I've had opportunities to do that, but I still don't do it because my brain is like, well, I might as well just do this other thing and get this done. Or I love lists to the point where it's a problem because that becomes I get the dopamine hit from checking something off on a list. I love lists. I can't stop. And so I have to say, going back to Love Island, I feel like that's such a flex because I feel like I would love to watch Love Island, but committing to something that I would have to stay on top of that's multiple times a week, I would be bad at it. So my brain's like, you can't do that because you would be bad at watching Love Island because you'd get behind and then feel bad about being behind. And so just don't even I don't think that's normal.
No, but like next year I'm going to text you and like we'll watch it together. And if you miss an episode, I'll catch you up and vice versa.
It's hard to just do things.
I get that because it is stressful stressful now that when a season drops, everybody is talking about it on social media. And I am like, how did you have the time to watch this entire season? It dropped 24 hours ago.
I still have 2 episodes of Off Campus left. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, I'm not done. And I'm like, we're going to move on to the next thing. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, I love the book Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. And when the adaptation came out, everyone was talking about the ending and how she changed the ending. And I'm like, this dropped 24 hours ago. Like, I need 2 months to catch up on this.
We'll say Love Island. I think every parent should be watching it right now because the contestants are closer to my kids' age than they are my age. So it's an interesting snapshot of when you look at the men, like they were 2 that were just like wonderful, like good men. And then the rest were, one of the guys, his like stepdad came on family day to like give him the biggest dressing down because he just was so disrespectful to the woman he claimed was like, I want to spend my life with her, but like hooking up and exploring and lying about it and lying to the guys. And it's like, this is very instructive on how to raise a good man. And I view that. I think like, boy mom culture. And again, being very online, you're fed a lot of this, the ification of parenting of what kind of mom are you? What kind of kid is your kid? And I am not a boy mom. I am a mother of sons I'm trying to raise them to be good men. So in watching the show, I am like, what are the qualities of Bryce and Carl that I can figure out how to introduce to my sons that these become their values of accountability and honesty and not being afraid to be emotional and to show your feelings and to be vulnerable. And like, it was like, those 2 guys were so sweet. Carl was literally a Disney prince. I'm like, I need your mom to write a parenting book. And meanwhile, the other ones, I was like, yo.
A cautionary tale.
Cautionary tale. Honestly, Love Island has like brought me so much joy every single summer. And it is a forcing mechanism because you have to be home every night to catch these episodes. I'm not going out. I'm like getting fully ready for bed and then getting in bed and watching it on my iPad and like putting it away and immediately, most nights, going to sleep because I have to show up and like be a mom the next day. And I can't be engaging in watching edits and commentating on how like awful this person is or how great this person is.
Reality TV is straight up cultural anthropology, though.
It is.
I mean, I cannot watch TV and not think about all the messages we're receiving about gender and about love and dating and who's desirable. And then my head goes to like, I need to write a story about this. Who's accepting stories? So yes, I mean, I love reality TV too. I have not found it to be the escape I want it to be, but I love it. And I feel like the fact that we make women feel guilty about loving it is so messed up because we're actually learning so much about our culture through reality TV.
No longer ascribe guilt. Like I just refuse to consider or categorize things that bring me joy as guilty in any way. They are just things I love. And when you approach it from that lens, you're more likely to make it a priority than when you call it a guilty pleasure because it means it's something you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. And also, we never ask men what their guilty pleasures are.
It's actually great. My husband will play on his Switch while I watch Love Island. Like we're just sitting next to each other. So we're together, but we're both doing the things that make us happy. And neither one of us feels guilty. So if he doesn't feel guilty about playing video games, I don't feel guilty about watching what I'm watching or enjoying what I'm enjoying.
I feel like I also love romance novels. And I do feel like that's a real escape because I love the formula of it. I just like, you know what's going to happen. You know what's coming. And I guess for some people that's like a negative, but we need that. Like we just never know what we're going to wake up to in the news or just in like things just keep happening to us and not in the Emily Henry books that I love. Like I know they are going to be the same. Like they're going to have the same characters.
I think that's why we love rewatching shows so much as millennial women. I'm watching One Tree Hill for I don't even know what time now.
Be anything. I love One Tree Hill.
I convinced my husband to watch it by telling him it's mostly about basketball.
And he's probably hooked now, right?
Yeah. I think he's into it.
I think the one thing about romance novels too is never women don't have to make excuses for being loved, or they don't need to couch their love in desirability. They are loved for all of their multitudes versus what they offer to the partner and just it being that. I really think it's healthy to remind ourselves and to surround ourselves by the art that celebrates our full selves and centers desire around that versus this sliver or this snapshot of who we are based on what the toxic men in charge of everything have deemed acceptable or valuable.
True. I mean, I could talk about reality TV like and romance novels the whole time. There were definitely other things I wanted to ask you about though. I get a question about daughtering for you.
Mhm.
What is a boundary that you've had to learn as an adult daughter?
Oof, that I'm never going to be my mother's perfect daughter.
Yes.
And accepting that there's no such thing as a perfect daughter. And listen, this is nothing she's ever said. She's always been incredibly supportive of everything I've ever wanted to do. And she's been the first to show up for me when a big thing happens and I can't be as present of a mom or be present as something else. So this isn't coming, it's not coming from a super critical place. And I think it's more from how I have internalized daughterhood in the context of how my cousins have shown up as daughters or what their parents have deemed as a valuable or a good daughter. And I think what that is I will not be the person who finds, the solace in practicing Hinduism the way she does. I have my own relationship with faith. I will not be the daughter who is probably the daughter-in-law to my mother-in-law that my mother wishes I was or maybe expected me to be, but I have my own boundaries based on my own needs, both from emotional health and mental health. And also, it just is what it is. I think daughter-in-lawing is just as precarious as being a daughter. And I have to constantly remind myself that I really like myself and I really love myself and that I should not and do not have to earn the love of others, at least for the people that matter most to me, that it's not conditional.
Yeah.
Are you also an only child, Hitha?
Mhm.
Okay. That's a whole other can of worms too.
It really is.
Yeah, I am as well.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You're not allowed to say apparently because Zara will share this online and be like, "Hey, it's hard being an only child," and people will be like, "No, it's not. You're just
Yeah.
and like on our own social media, you're not allowed to have feelings about being an only child apparently."
Yeah, and I think especially I've had a lot of people reach out to me because they're thinking about stopping after their first child, and I'm like, if you're asking me for my honest opinion, I'm going to give you my full honest opinion, but they don't always want to hear it.
Mhm.
And by the way, my honest opinion is absolutely not that you should have more kids just for the sake of having more kids. You want to have one child, that's great. I think we turned out pretty well.
Mhm.
But it is hard and it is worth considering. And it is, I think if you're a parent to an only child, you have to understand that experience and you have to make that effort. I mean, I have twins and I think a lot about what their experience is like as twins. My dad is one of 9, my mom is one of 3. I don't think they ever really stop to think about what the only child experience looks like.
My dad is one of 9. My mom is one of 8. On my mother's side, all my cousins are only children. And on my dad's side, about half of my cousins are only children. More, actually. Most of them are only children. One uncle had 3, one aunt had 2, and the rest of us are all solos.
I bet
It's
that
wild.
really brings you together too, though.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they did have to put in a lot more effort into the family gatherings. So I had the proximity and the frequency to get to know and build my relationships with my cousins. It's something that they couldn't take kind of for granted in a way that when you have more than one, there is that you two have each other. It doesn't. So, and that's a double-edged sword. I wish like my kids were closer to my cousins' kids, especially when they're close in age. And life is just so busy and challenging and hard right now that it is hard to figure out the ways to gather them. There's also that double-edged sword of if you have cousins close to you in age, your kids are all close to you in age, there's this expectation that you should be close when you could be just very different people. And other than being related, there isn't much in common. And how do you navigate that? I'm still figuring that out, to be honest.
Is there anything that you think you've really taken from being an only child that has helped you in adulthood?
Yeah, to become very independent. My parents were not ones to take me to like kid things. They just took me
Yeah.
along with what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So when they got together with their friends, for many years, I was the only kid there. So I got very good at bringing a book or watching a movie and kind of staying out of the way, but also really enjoying my solo time. I learned, the art of hostessing from my mom and making people feel welcome in our home. And, that's something I really do enjoy to this day. I also became very adaptable. We moved around a lot. And I think if I had a sibling, I don't think my dad would have seized every career opportunity that came his way because my mom and I were always game for a new change and a new adventure. We said yes. And I think I would have had a wonderful childhood, but a very different childhood. And I would have ended up being a different person. I like who I am. I like who I turned out to be. And that's taken a very long time to learn how to like myself and actively like myself. But a lot of that is also rooted in the choices my parents made. And looking back and expressing gratitude, deep gratitude for those choices, and thinking about the fun adventures and all the travels and the things we got to do and see, and the fact that we are very, very close. I know close relationships like that are not accidental and they're not to be taken for granted. It is work and it's affected how I show up as a parent, both in how do I want my kids to experience their heritage and build their connection with being Indian, but also thinking about it's not just the men I'm raising, it's what kind of relationship do I want us to have when they are grown? It's going to be different than the one I have with my parents, where I choose to spend this much time with them and we need each other. I don't view it as I need to take care of them. They're still in many ways taking care of me, especially emotionally. I'm very, very close with them. They're my first calls when anytime anything I need help or I want to celebrate a win. It's going to look different with my boys and that's okay. But having a goal of being close, of wanting to spend quality time together, of being able to be there for them, maybe in the way that they both need, but also I need, being open to how that's going to look and knowing it's not the framework, but it's the feeling that I want to have and I want them to have as our relationship as parents and kids grows and evolves.
Has watching them age and having to pivot a bit, like you said, move to a house that made more sense as they age, has that changed how you're structuring your family and living situation as you age?
100%. I mean, my husband and I talk about all the time that what point do we no longer own a home and we just rent? At what point do we start downsizing and not having so much stuff? So the day we do pass away, that part of it all it's going to be work for any kid. I don't want it to be overwhelming for my kids. Whatever we can do in life to ease that are things, we think about at 42 years old, which I don't think my parents necessarily thought about. We have, new closets being installed to offer better storage and functionality. And I was clearing out my parents' closet yesterday. It's being installed right now. And there were things that I found that I am like, why do you have this hotel sewing kit from like the 90s that I'm like, why? But then I also found this adorable little sweatshirt that I wore when I was a baby and like my lost tooth fairy pillow that I was like, oh, actually so glad my mom saved this, that I could keep it. She also kept my ninth grade, like first semester report card. And I was like, I did not need a reminder that like I made stupid mistakes because I was rushing in chemistry.
My dad brought my report cards to my wedding. Like, I
Oh
was
my
this part of
God.
why was like,
Yeah.
please.
And yeah, so doing that physical clean out, like right now, has me certainly. And I'm like going into my husband's office and I'm telling him like these random things, but it definitely has become a filter with which we make decisions on, do we actually need to buy this? Do we actually need this or not? How do we want to spend our discretionary income with as a family? And it is prioritizing travel more. And a quality that I love my kids have that I think is more so than what I had is anytime we go anywhere, if it's for a family visit or whatnot, they view it as a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, oh, this is fun. We're going to adventure. We're going to explore. We're going to do this. And, we were in Ottawa for my niece's our engagement. And, each morning I was like, okay, let's go check this out. Let's go check this out. And it really was, what can I do to keep them busy before the things we have to do? But they approached it with such like this sense of adventure and excitement and enthusiasm that that's what matters. I want them to have those memories of being together and exploring something new versus the stuff of things. And listen, they still want Nintendo Switches and new games and this and that. And they enjoy this time too. So it's, I think, finding a balance of raising kids who get to enjoy the things and have things that they really like, but also not raising them to be too spoiled and entitled and assume just because they want something, they're going to get it.
Yeah, I really do think our generation is going to age so differently because of a lot of the things you said. First of all, just not just doing things because that's just how you do it, thinking about what you actually need, what makes sense for the future, and planning in a totally different way than generations before us. Even down to like not having like wedding china because you know that you're not going to use that. It's just not necessary to do things just because generations before us have done them. And like, asking grandparents to not buy physical gifts, things like that. Like, so our whole generation kind of, I feel like, understands we don't need stuff.
Yeah. But like auntie culture, that is a thing. Like I have some of my aunties who will never show up empty handed and will have something for everybody. But I found like a giant box of stuff that this auntie gave my mom, like things like nail polish that like my mom does not wear makeup or nail polish. There is a stash of face creams I have given my mother that was in this box, things like that I am like, I would much rather bring something we can all consume and enjoy together. You can enjoy on your own. I don't like to bring stuff anymore when I'm, going to someone's home. And even with my friends as kids, I'm like, listen, here's a gift card. Use it however you need. And as a parent, I'm like, use it however you need because this is just as much your birthday as it is this kid's birthday.
Yeah. And like even with exercise, for example, like you mentioned that you're lifting weights and doing the things you're supposed to do because you're thinking about your own aging versus I think when our parents or like the people who were in their 40s before us were thinking about how to look good and not necessarily how to age well. And it's such a different mindset that I think there was a lot of avoiding thinking about aging and how to live well into our later years. And our generation is really changing that, like the way we talk about perimenopause, women's health, mental health, so many things that we're just talking about and how to actually support each other through these life stages. It's so different. And I think it's going to go a long way for us.
And to not internalize what our mom said about, oh, well, no one talked about this, or, oh, I didn't go through that, or, oh, it wasn't that bad. Okay. It was a very different time, we could go outside and play for hours and drink water out of the hose. And you weren't really having as close of an eye on us as we do with our kids because life today demands it. And it's a very different time of how we grow up. And therefore, I think we all see with our aging parents, if they haven't made some of these choices, you see that in how they're aging and how we take care of them. So you're right. It is, I don't want to be reliant on my kids and for them to ever feel like they have to. I would rather just focus on having a great relationship with my kids that is rooted in independence and respect for each other. And I think that respect starts with taking really good care of yourself so you don't need anybody, or that need is postponed as long as it possibly can be.
We were going to do a quick rapid fire. These questions don't really lend themselves to rapid fire answers, but we'll try. All right. So finish these sentences. Lately, I've been giving myself permission to
eat Taco Bell multiple times a week.
Amazing. I wish more daughters knew.
Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It needs to be your priority.
The best thing my parents taught me was
it's not about what you give someone. It very much is about how you make them feel.
And last one, right now I'm protecting.
Nothing. My boundaries are pretty eroded on all things, but I will just go with I'm protecting my Love Island time because that was as recent as Sunday.
Awesome. And then what would you say is your millennial sandwich survival tip?
Honestly, it's the 7 types of rest framework. I don't think I could have gotten, this has been one of the most challenging years of my life. I had a kid in the hospital for a period of time. I've had my mom in and out of the hospital and a lot of health needs. I have a dad with Parkinson's. If I didn't implement and prioritize this rest framework before his shit hit the fan, I would not be in a position to stay steady. And for me, steadiness is success right now. And this rest framework will change your life. And I know I'm like a broken record about it online, but it is true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I feel like you're just like, you're one of us. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have all the same thoughts.
I'm so glad you guys created this podcast. It's such an important resource to, one, you have such great tactical tips for people, but 2, you make us feel less alone. Because this can be so isolated when you're sitting in hospital and doctor's appointments, waiting rooms, or in the lobby of your kids' activities, or in that moment in the car when you just have a second to yourself and you're afraid to let yourself feel for a second. Because if you do, you feel like you're about to fall apart.
Yes. And we couldn't find the space. That was really like how we were like, we cannot be the only ones dealing with this who are our age. But yeah, we're getting there. So thank you. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for listening to The Millennial Sandwich. Don't forget to like, subscribe, give us a rating, and connect with us on social media.